first house is not your investment. It's an emotional security that you're buying for your family and you.
Do you use a wealth manager, or how have you decided to invest your money?
And you also know that credit cards companies make money on missed payments, of course. That's their business model.
Yeah.
Every month you should do one thing which you remember for the next 2 years.
You know, they say that there are primarily three things that drive people. It's money, power, and fame. And when you ask people, they'll tell you that everyone needs it all in some capacity and to some degree or the other. People may first solve for money, then for power, and eventually everyone wants fame. But then, you know, when I was given a list of possible guests that I would be interacting with for this series, one name shone out because I did not know him by his original name. I knew him by the name Gabbar, and this is how he writes and represents himself on Twitter for over a decade now. So when I was also asked to match the guest with the One Finance MoneySign characteristic traits, I could almost very easily say that this would be the Stealthy Shark. So here is a gentleman who's not even by himself been anonymous, almost an anonymous celebrity on social media for over a decade now, but in addition also has a startup called Hood, which is about anonymous social media. He was also recently on SharkTank India's season 2, and I'm really thrilled today to be interacting with Abhishek Asthana. Welcome, Abhishek.
Hi everyone. It's good to be here. I mean, I'm looking forward to this, right? So yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of podcasts, but what happens is that whenever I talk to some new person, new things come out. So I'm really looking forward to this discussion as well. Yeah.
And what about the story about the Twitter
Gabbar
handle?
Singh. Yeah, so yes, forgot to tell you. So Gabbar Singh basically happened. I had a blog that time. I was new to internet, and it was on Blogspot, and it was called Garam Bheja Fry, and I had a decent amount of hits that time coming. I was used to write humor blogs that time, and so what happened was that Twitter was new. I think 2010 in India at least. So there was this concept of following people. Orkut, you had fans, friends. On Facebook, you had friends. But this is the place where you could follow each other. I mean, that was a new concept that time. I thought, why not create a humorous blog about Sholay characters being on Twitter? Like with the silly joke. The premise was that in the movie, the Dakus are following Basanti. She's running on Dhanno Bhag. So I was thinking that why can't Basanti have an account on Twitter, and she has 10-12 Dakus following her on Twitter? That could be the silly joke which could be the highlight of my blog that time. What I did was I created those handles and took screenshots. And my idea was to, once my blog post is done, I'll go and delete them. And that's what I did. I went there and deleted all those Daku handles, deleted the Basanti handle. And when I came to delete the Gabbar Singh handle, I saw one tweet which I had done, got some 20 retweets. And in that era, 2010, if you adjust for inflation, it would be 1,000 retweets now. So I thought maybe this is working out well. Let's see, I won't delete this. So I was this close to deleting it, and that decision maybe changed my life, I guess. So I kept at it. My flatmate the next day came to me and said, "There is this handle you should follow, which is Gabbar Singh." I said, "Okay, this looks like it's working." And since then, I've been putting out tweets, and things have happened around me. Yeah.
Very interesting that you're an influencer, right? And rightly so can be called the OG, because I don't know any other influencer who's been creating content consistently for almost 13 years now. To that, and to the discussion about finance that we're having today, there is also the concept of influencers or finance influencers. Do you know of any personally? Do you interact with them? How do you think they're all doing a good job or a not so good job? Any views around that?
Yeah, so see, as a concept, this is good, because what they are doing is they are trying to make people financially literate, right? And imagine this is the country where the only investment vehicle people put their money. It was like a combination of your investment plus insurance, which you should never do. Now people have realized that and have seen pathetic returns. I realized my father did some LIC policy 20 years ago, and it's going to mature in next year, I'm going to get 1.5 lakhs for that. So imagine the kind of money he would have put in, and that is precious money, because in that time he actually sacrificed some of his luxuries in life to put money in LIC, right? So there was a need for financial literacy, of course, and these guys are doing a great job at it. Of course, they are spreading. But what has happened is that once that is done, now what you do, right? You need to, and because they are slaves of engagement, of course. I mean, we all are basically. So they are constantly and they also basically made this their mainstay. This is their primary source of earning now. They don't have a job to go back to. So what has happened is that every day they think of optimizing their content for more reach, more engagement. And in that pursuit, what has happened is there sometimes there is a lack of due diligence. And that's what sometimes leads to putting out stuff which might not be as accurate as possible. And the thing is that it's money, right? I mean, you are advising people. People have put your trust in because you've done some good stuff earlier. Now they'll follow you by your word, that what you're saying them. And if suppose at that point of time you're telling them something which is not financially prudent, then that person might lose money. You can apologize later saying, okay, I made a mistake, but that money won't come back to that person. So I called out that thing that, okay, be very, very cautious of what you put out, because you are not a makeup influencer, or you're not a travel influencer. Suppose I followed an advice of a travel influencer. I went to this place. I didn't have a great experience. I came back, but my life would go on as usual. But here, what you're telling people is to take loans or not, to take credit cards or not, or putting your hard-earned money in equities or not, or crypto or not. So sometimes you are playing with people's life savings. So you have a bigger responsibility in terms of the content you're creating. So that's where I had called it out, and even the finance minister as well echoed that statement, that saying that, okay, there has to be some kind of they should be aware of what they are putting out. That's the only point I had to make that time.
And funnily enough, in this entire exercise of 8 different conversations we're having with people, with each person coming with a different worldview about finance, and we wouldn't say any of them is wrong. It's their personal, view shaped by their personal experiences, their environment. But what kind of assets do you prefer to put your money in, where you feel, and do you optimize for returns, or do you optimize for wealth preservation? That's what we'd want to know.
For first and foremost, what I will optimize for is the emotional security of my dependents and me, right? And it comes through kind of stuff which is permanent in nature. One is, I'm a big proponent of this thing of buying your own house, right? And though there's a contrary opinion about a lot of people who say that, okay, you should not buy, you should stay on rent. And primarily those discussions have been about Excel calculations about rental yield, that in India it's low and you should take advantage of that. And the home loan rates are high, so there's a arbitrage opportunity there, so you can stay on rent forever. But that sounds good on an Excel. During the pandemic, what I've seen is there are a lot of people who've been told to vacate their houses, right? And then every other calculation, those calculations that you have on your Excel sheet, won't have those extraordinary events priced in, right? So that's where I tell people that, fine, your first house is not your investment. It's an emotional security that you're buying for your family and you. So that's where, for me, what will matter is that first I create that cushion for them, right? And given I have consciously opted out of a job, which is a safe haven of fixed income, right? Your fixed stream of money coming in. I have consciously given that up. Now I am dependent on market forces right now. My skill owns skill, and it's like a boat in the ocean, right? So what I need to do also is, while my sales are up, while goings are good, I should use that time to accumulate enough and put in the right way, so that there is no question of my essentials need not being met. Let's say fees of school fees for my kids. So those things which are absolutely essential, I can go off the luxuries and everything. But the absolute essentials, I need to create enough wealth or plan enough to, actually take care of that. House rent is one of them, of course. When you buy your own house and try to reduce the EMIs because home loan rates are really high. I don't know of many investment avenues which will give you a return of 9% or 10%, which is the home loan rate. So I think if you have a home loan and you have some spare money which you are putting in other vehicles, I would say that first, pay off your home loan and maybe reduce the home loan because it's obnoxiously high. The learnings of keeping home loan as a sacrosanct, it's there, comes from the time when the interest rates were low, when they were 6% or 5%, and in FD also could have beaten that. But now the case is not that. The rates have gone up. So I would say take care of essentials first, and then think of wealth maximization. I'm also a big proponent of increase your top line and not just micromanage your bottom line.
Yeah. So I think let's delve deeper into increasing your top line.
Yeah.
I heard you said first I would want to provide for my family,
Yeah.
ensure they have a house to live in,
Yeah.
and their basic needs are met with a certain sense of security to provide for, say, black swan events. Yeah. Once that is sorted, as a next step, how do you think of increasing the top line, as you mentioned, or maximizing your returns, or what beyond?
Yeah. So what I would do is basically, see, my job, what I'm good at is top line management. What might not be that good at would be bottom line management.
Name that.
So if suppose I am good at, let's say, starting new businesses, maybe, right? Just one example. Or maybe looking for new revenue sources. But I might not be the best person to be given a corpus of 1 crore and say, ki isko invest karo and get the best return possible. I might not be that guy. I might not be able to, I might look for different knowledge sources, but I'm not the right person to do that. What I'll do is, I'll give it to someone who is good at that job. Let's say a wealth manager or someone who is registered to do that. Because my mind space and my bandwidth should be invested fully either to take care of emotional well-being of my family or to increase the top line. And if you increase the top line, your bottom line also grows.
Correct. So what you're basically saying is that your entire effort would essentially go in upskilling yourself and monetizing through your own skills.
Absolutely.
And generating more revenue streams. And then of course investment is a separate part, because first you solve for income generation and creation rather than focusing on the passive investment return.
Absolutely.
Right? So do you use a wealth manager, or how have you decided to invest your money?
Yes. So given I'm still early in terms of my entrepreneurial journey, I started in 2020, I would say, right? So as I said, this period is spent in creating those cushions for my family. When I reach that stage of basically, once these needs are met, then if suppose newer income is coming, and then I've done that already. I've had a wealth manager to manage that. But what I would see is first, for anyone who's basically trying to, maybe look at my path. Everybody has their own unique path. What I've done is basically earn money, provide for your first emotional security options, then move on to wealth maximization and preservation. I'll, as an individual, will focus on wealth maximization. Preservation and growth would be to some wealth manager.
Okay. So have you dabbled with crypto?
I have dabbled with crypto.
Yeah, and how did it turn out? What excited you about it?
See, when I was in my job that time, which was a relatively safe haven, right? As I told you, with having a job, I could do some of the risk play, right? Because I knew there was a fixed income source that was there. And that's where, but when I started entrepreneurship, it's the risky bit. So I need to put money in safe havens, right? So I did it then, and it was in the year 18-19, I guess, when the Bitcoin and every other altcoins were surging. I did some of it. I did make money. I sold it off, but I could never see the underlying value of crypto. In the sense, it's speculative. I mean, there were like a lot of altcoins came and they said that we could replace the traditional NEFT and Swift and everything. Like XRP was one of them, but it could never happen actually. They could never be, I mean, adopted globally as such. And then the scams, you know, I mean, suddenly money gets wiped out, and everybody is spooked. So retail has been, I mean, to adoption of this in mass scale hasn't happened. They have done it. Korea is a good example. People in Korea do a lot of that, right? But because of these scams, people are spooked anyway. So I came out of it. I thought maybe this is not the way to earn money, maybe, right? So, and then the traditional investment vehicles like equity, debt, and everything. That's where the money has gone. Yeah.
Okay, so I hear that you know, while you've provided for all the basic needs for your family, you still are concerned about whether you see underlying value in some investment vehicle or not. And you did not see it in crypto, but you tried to kind of dabble with it. I would understand maybe with a small sum to either just understand it better, you don't just be engaged in the wave and see where it goes. And I think that's what a lot of people genuinely did. But from a volatility point of view, when you were invested in it, or say even if you currently invest in stock markets, do you feel the volatility, or when the value of an asset goes down, does that freak you out to some degree? Does that make you lose your mental peace? Or given the horizon, you're actually okay and you feel that's a part of the...
See, it depends on the proportion of money or your savings that you have put in, right? I have so far put only that money which I can afford to lose. So even if it has gone down, I had in the back of my mind ki I had come to this thinking, even if I lose it, I'm not talking about mutual funds, I'm just talking of pure direct equity exposure. Even if I lose it, then I had signed up for this. And I haven't put a huge amount of money in direct equity exposure anyway. So yes, I mean, one more thing that which again bothers me, as I coming to the earlier point, I'm good at top line management. I'm good at what I do in a day-to-day job. I'm not a great stock market investor. I'm not a great stock trader. And so what it will do is, if suppose I make mistakes or I try to ape someone, and it takes up my mind space. Let's say at 10 a.m. in the morning, I see my stock portfolio go down, let's say 20%. And the first half of my mind, I am in a bad mood and I'm not able to focus on my day job, which was the one which gave me that money to put in that stock market. So, and I think it's a waste of mind space. I would rather be free, because my line of business is anyway requires you to be freer in your mind, at least. Both startups basically. As a founder, you need to be strategic in your thought process, and you're taking calls and your decisions which should be taken with a very clear mind. But if a fall of a 10% or 15% clouds your mind, then you will not be able to do a good job at your day job.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we can see how entrepreneurial you really are. But despite having the same environment, the same experiences, there may be some other people who may not feel as driven towards creating, and they may prefer an income stream which is more streamlined, more static, more predictable, which could be in a job. Do you feel other people in your family, despite having, it could be a sibling, a partner, who despite being in the same environment though thinks differently, or do you feel people in your family are all mostly aligned towards
actually,
money goals?
No, see, I don't even seek to know that what their money goals are, right? It's a private matter anyway. But you're right, in the sense, everybody has different goals, different income streams, and they think of money differently, right? Money is purely a very, very personal thing, right? It depends on your privilege, it depends on your upbringing, it depends on your inheritance of values or material, that whatever you have gotten. So I think, of course, as the question is, do you want to get involved in your own money management, right? There is no right answer to it. I mean, right now my thought process is like that, okay, I'll delegate it to someone, right? Maybe at some point of time, let's say when let's say I sell off my startup, I have plenty of time. I now suddenly a portion of my day is free. I might take interest then. I might start to learn where to put that money in, right? I then would take greater charge of the money. Then what will happen is, I'll be that wealth manager, and there is a portfolio to be managed, and let's see if I can do a good job at it, but not by being untutored. I like to learn. I like to acquire more knowledge. I like to talk to more people. Then that would be my job then. Right.
So you mentioned you'd like to be tutored. Do you feel there are any systems right now in the finance world which according to you is the right way to be tutored or get educated about this? Because for most people otherwise it's just financial content which is available on social media or maybe on the news where it's mostly tracking of how the stock market is doing. Barring these two sources, there are no other sources where people can go to. So according to you, what's the best system if someone is inclined towards learning today? And what is the best age also that you think? So also to tell us age appropriate education mode available in this space.
Yes. So see, I think a lot of such educational matter which is there out there, people do go through them, but sometimes either it's too convoluted, it's a PDF, or it's too simplistic, which is a reel, right? So there has to be something which is in the middle, trustworthy enough, covering all nuances, but also something which is easy to understand as well. So what has happened is that now you have a fin influencer who creates a reel. There was a lot of disclaimers which were in the PDF, but those PDF didn't make it to the reel, right? And the reel was simplistic version of that PDF, knowledge established already. So people took up all the knowledge that was there in the reel and took it on face value, didn't read the disclaimer was in the PDF. So people are still confused what to do. So there has to be something which is trustworthy, of course, and it should also respect my age as well, in the sense you can't communicate financial knowledge to me in a bite-sized snackable format when I am in my mid-30s. That might be appealing to someone who's in their early 20s, right? Who has maybe attention span issue. But for me, I would like to go through the details. I would like to know what's behind each thing and I would like to read between the lines. So for me, something which is trustworthy, something which is clear, something which is which understands what do I want. I mean, if suppose, say it's like trying to, in the sense you need to know about the person, right, to give him the right advice. One size doesn't fit all.
I see that's a very heavy ask, of any person to take out time to really read between the lines and go into depth of managing their money, and which is why I do understand it's probably best left to professionals. And of course you have to be engaged in the process, because at the end of the day it's personal finance. You need to tell them what are your goals, your risk appetites, how you feel about volatility, how you feel about risks, and then let a professional do their job after taking into account all these facts, right? But okay, switching gears, I also want to understand what do you think about financial leverage or using debt to create more value or more return, and only so that you give us the answer in the right context. I will change the context to the fact that I know you went to Shark Tank to raise equity, but the offer that was made to you was equity and debt, and you did take it up. So would you have preferred it to be all equity, or do you think taking that debt has actually worked better in your favor? Now that's one, that's from a business perspective. And then I'd also want you to tell me, if you take debt in your everyday life, it could be something as simple as using a credit card to redeem points and get better deals elsewhere.
Okay, so debt is of course how you grow your business in India, right? And if suppose you have to expand a factory, let's say people take debt, and all of it that basically any new infra is created by a private individual is usually funded through debt, right? And because interest rates are low, and of course then there's a return of capital. So what in my personal opinion, I haven't taken any debt in my traditional job, which is GingerMonkey, which is debt free. Personal life, I also am debt free right now. And in my other startup, the tech startup, debt is usually not the right way to go, because Not because it's a bad vehicle of funding. It's just that in startups, if you sell equity, then it makes more sense because there are no profits basically here, right? It's not that you take up debt and you'll have enough money to return it to them. It's basically anyone who trusts the business will put their money and own the business. A bank doesn't own your business. Bank will give you money and take back that money. But someone who has that vision, let's say you're an investor who believes in this, in the founders, in the process, in the product you are making, they'll want to own that, right? So in Shark Tank, when I went there, it was presented to us as half debt, half equity. We took it up, but we never exercised the debt part.
Okay.
Yeah, and we knew that we didn't need money at that time, and debt was of course expensive, 12% there, and we weren't in some dire need that we'll take debt and we'll return the money back. It's not that business. It's not a positive P&L business to put
for
money,
the time being.
For the time being, of course. If you put money in and money comes out and you return, and the rest of money you keep it yourself.
Got it. And what about credit cards?
I don't use credit cards.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And is it because you're anti-debt, or is it because you just like the convenience of a debit card and you don't want to put your brains to?
Yes. So I think it's an added, I would say, reminder every month that you pay off your because I had credit cards earlier, and I missed a payment maybe, and it came back to bite me.
Yeah.
And it's I would say now the things are more simpler, but I've had bad memories when there were no reminders as such, and suddenly, and you also know that credit cards companies make money on missed payments, of course. That's their business model.
Yeah.
They are hoping that you miss your payments.
So any such splurge or experience that you've really spent money on, which is probably a high spend, but it has given you massive ROI in terms of experience value?
I think, so in terms of course, travel is one of my hobbies, of course.
Yeah.
I like travel. I want to travel to new places, exotic locations, and that is where I don't look at money as such. I said like, fine, let's go and splurge here because this is worth it. As I told you, as you said very rightly, that experiences which will take you to your, last day on your bed, basically, right? On your deathbed, that the money is fine, money will pass on. I always tell people that whatever money we are earning is not for us, it's for the kids, for the next generation. If you're a first generation entrepreneur, you will never use your money. You'll constantly work hard towards creating stuff, someone else will. So for us, what we can do is, what we can earn is experiences. At one point of time, I had this philosophy in life that every month you should do one thing which you remember for the next 2 years.
Yeah. Oh, that's a beautiful thought. Every month, just imagine the number of memories people will collect and effort they'll put in just improving the quality of their lives and not just going towards one metric of creating more money, right?
So it also does is basically, if you have this conscious thought in your mind, sometimes things which you will say no to, you might say yes because thinking, okay, I didn't do anything this month. Let's go ahead, let's do it. And it could be anything. It need not be something that requires a lot of money. It could be. I remember I was in Thane that time. There was a friend of mine. We were just having some street food, and then there was this single screen theater. There was a Bhojpuri movie running. My friend was like, "Really, क्या होता है इसमें?" चलो देखते हैं. I went there on the show. I sat through, and it was a fun experience. And the fact that after so many years in this podcast, I am able to recount that story. It's an experience. I didn't know what happened the previous day. I didn't know how much money did I earn then that month.
Yeah.
But you
remember that Bhojpuri movie experience.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the other guests on this show actually mentioned that and was referring to someone who also runs an agency and mentioned that they said a lot of times clients will walk you out to see what vehicle or car you've actually come in to be able to gauge that if this is the value or the cost of their vehicle, then their agency would be doing a particular top line of business and they would be able to put due care to my business, right? Have you ever felt the need to acquire signal goods purely from a business perspective? And if yes, any thought process around that?
I get that. See, there's a perfectly good rationale of doing that, and this was, I mean, a perfectly good norm in the days of pre-pandemic, when a lot of meetings happened. Of course, all the meetings happened offline, right? You have to come in a car to a place and talk to people. But fortunately, when we were in pandemic, I mean, of course, a lot of bad things happened. But what it did was it created those Zoom calls, which you could pitch businesses. I work with numerous clients. I haven't met more than 5, and we've been doing business with them for those many years. We have international clients. I've never traveled abroad to meet a client. I've only traveled abroad for tourism, and so that signaling was reduced. But now that we are coming back to offices and stuff, I see the merit in that of acquiring signaling goods. One more thing that basically was a different in my case was that I was a known figure online, influencer. At least I might not be someone who is popular in the streets, but at least in the corporate circles, people would at least would have known in these 13 years that there is a Gabbar Singh. I've seen somewhere a tweet or two, right? So that was a signaling, basically. That was a trust factor, basically. Okay, this guy has created something, some property online, which is done well. So he can be trusted for my brand as well. And also, after a while of time, what matters is your creds, basically, your previous clients if you worked. Now, good thing is 80% of my business, new inquiries come in, haven't heard of Gabbar Singh. They've just heard of GingerMonkey. So that way it has done well. In the sense, I've decoupled my online identity to my business. That's the thing I wanted, because your online identity could be perishable.
Then the key man risk is really high.
Key man risk,
because it's all dependent on you executing and you doing it.
Absolutely. That's why I never named it Gabbar Singh's agency.
And it's wonderful how you mentioned that either one can buy a signal or one can create a signal.
Yeah.
It's always better to create a signal, because then you own it. It's authentic to you, and it's unique to you, where no one else can buy it. They will have to create it.
Yeah, true. That's the whole idea. That's why it saved me a lot of money.
Yeah, and as we got to know a lot about your life and how you think today in this discussion, you also took the One Finance MoneySign test, which is now patented. So it's very unique again, to the One Finance team, and I think they've created it. So due credit to them. And you took the test, and I do have your results. It tells me that you're a stealthy shark.
Okay.
Yeah, and you do have certain strengths, which are that you're wildly curious, you're driven towards swift action, and are extremely intelligent. So I think I can definitely relate to these characteristics, traits to you. And in terms of weaknesses, they say that you could be driven towards being a little excessive and also aggressive. There's also a sense of secrecy in how you may execute things, and I think maybe that comes with being an entrepreneur. Where competitors are always sizing you up, trying to see what's your next move.
True.
Yeah. In terms of likely financial habits, we see that you lean towards discounted assets and value buys. You're always curious about new products. You're highly independent in terms of decision making, and have an inclination towards high risk investments.
Okay, quite. I would say 80% there, I think.
Yeah, that's wonderful to hear. In terms of just some suggestions from the test are that you should seek professional assistance to take calculated risks, which I'm glad to see that you're quite inclined towards yourself, and work towards consolidating your finances.
Nice. Yeah, that's a fair advice, of course.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Abhishek, for this very wonderful discussion of opening up, letting us know about how you think about money, how you experience money. And as Abhishek and all of us found out that he's a stealthy shark, I would now invite you to download the One Finance app and find out your money sign.
Investment in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.